I'm not crazy. I just think a lot of other people are. Now, guys, my GOAT list has taken the MMA world by storm, and people are saying that a couple of my takes, despite most of the list being pretty decent, a couple of my takes, people are saying are the worst takes they've ever heard. The worst takes they've ever heard. And they're saying that they're so bad that I must be rage baiting. I've seen Bedtime MMA response. I've seen MMA Guru and some of the things that he said about it. I've seen Kenny Okoye talk about it. I've seen a lot of people talking about it. And people are convinced that I can't be serious about the Arman take. And if I am, I must be smoking crack. If I am serious about Jan in the top 10, I must be insane. And listen, I'm tired of being called insane. I'm tired of being called, bro, you must be smoking crack. I'm tired of it because I actually have good arguments. And this is the problem when it comes to GOAT lists. All logic and all reason goes flying out the window because most people don't actually spend nearly as much time thinking about it as I do. That's why I make one of these every freaking 6 months. I could be making one every 2 weeks. I treat it as a pound for pound list, by the way. Just because I have modern era fighters in there, if they take a loss in their next fight, they're getting booted out of where they're at. But by the end of this video, I just want to say this. You may not 100% agree, but what you will be doing instead of saying that these are the worst takes you've ever heard is you will be saying things like, well, I see what you're saying. That's a good point, but I still have this guy. Or you're making a pretty good point, but it's going to turn into I slightly disagree, but I see the vision and I see what he's saying and he's making a good argument. Instead, this is the thing. They look at the final product. They look at the screenshot of the final product GOAT list without the explanation, and they just lose their minds, right? And as I said, it wasn't your grandma's GOAT list. But I'm telling you, I'm making good arguments, and I'm just not going to sit there and just allow people to say that I'm insane about this stuff because it's driving me insane because I know that I'm actually making the best arguments. I'm actually making the best arguments. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to talk about Arman Tsarukyan, and I'm going to compare his resume to Charles Oliveira. And you know what? As I said, you may not agree with him being ahead, but what you will agree with is that actually they're kind of close. And then we're going to talk about Petr Yan. And I'm just tired of hearing shit like Aljo's ahead of Yan. And I'm tired of people telling me I'm smoking crack for having him in the top 10. Okay? So the first thing that we're doing, and I guarantee you at the end of this video, you'll be saying, man, holy shit, Lucas is a mad scientist the way that he's going about the GOAT list. Let's get into Arman's resume. Charles Oliveira, that's a win on his resume. Nobody is going to blink an eye if you have Charles in the top 25. Nobody blinks an eye, right? Everyone's okay with that. Well, Arman Tsarukyan beat him. And just because he beat him, does that put him above Charles all time? No, of course not. Charles has done a lot in the sport. But we can't just sit there and act like Arman had his UFC debut against Charles and that's the only win he has in his entire career. But that is a win on his record. And if you were to look at Oliveira and Arman and just compare them with the fight that they had, you have to say, even though it was competitive, Arman Tsarukyan won the fight, and therefore, when comparing them on the night of the fight, Arman was the better fighter. So that's a win on his record, okay? But let's look at Charles's record. 23-11. That is a 67 win percentage. Whereas Arman Tsarukyan has a 90% win rate in the UFC. There's a big difference. Now, of course, Charles Oliveira was in the UFC for a lot longer. He's been in the game for a lot longer. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, you kind of punish Arman for not taking losses when you don't count Oliveira's losses. Like, you got to count losses. You just have to count them. The reason why Khabib is talked about as being so high on the GOAT list, the reason why Khabib is the guy that people bring up when someone starts to put together some great title wins back to back and people start saying better than Beeb, better than Beeb. The reason why Khabib is in that convo is because he has no losses. Losses matter. And Oliveira, we can't just count his wins. We can't just count his wins. Okay? But either way, people are not going to deny that this is a great win. Guess what? Arman beat him. But let's get on to another win on Arman's resume. Mateusz Gamrot. Now you're going to say, well, what do you mean Mateusz Gamrot? Arman Tsarukyan lost to Mateusz Gamrot. Well, what I have to say about that is that no, he didn't. He won 4 rounds against Mateusz Gamrot, which tells us that it was a robbery. And I am not delusional for counting robberies as wins for certain fighters on the GOAT list. We can't sit there and act like judges and what they put down on paper is the end-all be-all, but still complain every single fight night or pay-per-view about different judging scorecards. And, oh, they got that one wrong. Oh, yeah, everyone treats Reyes and Jones as a robbery. Everyone recognizes that as a robbery and a win for Reyes. But for every other fight, we must take what the judges say as gospel. No. Okay? And it's this simple. It is this simple because one of the things that people are going to have against the Arman take is that, oh, I'm counting the Gamrot fight as a win for him. That's delusional. Is it really delusional? Is it actually delusional? Or is it more silly to just say, yep, even though we disagree with scorecards all the time, we're just going to trust what the judges say when it comes to the GOAT list? The most important criteria for ranking how good fighters are. The most important thing. Well, let's just disprove all of that nonsense. Let's talk about round 4 with Gamrot and Arman. By the way, most people had Arman Tsarukyan winning that fight. I had him winning 4 rounds to 1. But let's just talk about round 4, where Arman Tsarukyan happens to drop Mateusz Gamrot with a spinning back fist. Let's just say Judge 1 scores round 4 for Gamrot. Judge 2 scores round 4 for Arman. What does that tell us? That both of them can't be right. This is the easiest way to disprove this idea that we can't count robberies. Judges can be wrong. The easiest way to understand that is that 2 judges can have different scorecards when it comes to scoring a round, and they both can't be right. The next thing is judging is not entirely subjective. We have a scoring system that isn't totally subjective. We understand that if one fighter lands 20 punches and another fighter lands 10 punches, all punches are around the same significance, then the one that lands 20 punches wins the round. Now, that's a really simplistic example, but essentially you guys get the point. There usually are objective ways of scoring rounds. And there's also a history of bad judging in MMA and boxing. And I don't like when people play dumb. And as soon as it comes to the GOAT list, they want to roll their eyes and saying, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. You're wearing a tinfoil hat when it comes to this. But like, those are the same guys that'll cry and complain about robberies all the time because we all do. We all do. We all complain about robberies. They're a part of the sport. They're a part of the sport. Judges can be wrong. I don't want to hear otherwise. It's not delusional to disagree with a judge who's scoring in a way that isn't consistent with judging criteria. It isn't crazy for me to count this as a win. Most people thought Arman won. That's not a great argument, but I thought Arman won. 4 rounds to 1. Judges get it wrong. So you're going to just say, oh, I'm an idiot, but the judges, nope, that's the end all be all. Whatever they say goes, and I'm just going to act like that was a classic, a perfect win, clean win. No. So if we can recognize that judges can be wrong, why would we let the wrong judges that are not scoring fights correctly determine our GOAT list? You're letting the guys that don't even know how to judge the sport tell us who the fucking GOATs are. That don't sit well with me. I don't think it's crazy to count Mateusz Gamrot as a win for Arman Tsarukyan. Just as I wouldn't be crazy counting Dominic Reyes' win against John Jones. Let's just get into Mateusz Gamrot is a high-level UFC fighter. Okay, I think Gamrot actually beat Guram Kutateladze. That was a robbery from back in the day. For those of you who are watching the sport, you know what I'm talking about. That was a robbery. But overall, he has an 8-3 record in the UFC. He has wins over guys like Diego Ferreira, Jalen Turner, Ludovic Klein. Like, he's a solid UFC fighter. He's a solid name to have on your resume. Beneil Dariush, one of Oliveira's best wins. This is another guy that Arman Tsarukyan has on his resume. And if you're looking at Beneil Dariush's record, it's not looking too shabby. 17-6 in the UFC. Moises, Dober, Diego Ferreira, Tony Ferguson, Mateusz Gamrot, Renato Moicano. Is he beating Dustin Poirier? No, but these are good wins on Beneil Dariush's resume, and that is one of Oliveira's best wins. Arman Tsarukyan also has Beneil Dariush on his resume, and since then, Beneil Dariush has bounced back with a win. Joel Alvarez. You know, people are acting like, who's Joel Alvarez? Joel Alvarez is a nobody. But on the same token, those fans are in the comment section when Joel Alvarez and Benoit Saint Denis gets booked to fight, and they're saying, RIP Saint Denis, Joel Alvarez is the next big deal. He's the truth. In comment sections, they're saying Joel Alvarez would beat Justin Gaethje right now. Like, I think that's possible as well. I know he's really good, but the point is, people want to play dumb when I bring up Joel Alvarez as a good win. They want to act like Joel Alvarez has like 3 UFC fights. As if he wasn't on a 4-fight win streak going into the Arman Tsarukyan fight. As if after that he hasn't won 3 times, beating Elvis Brenner, the first guy in the UFC to beat Elvis Brenner, when Elvis Brenner had a lot of hype. So this guy, 3 wins since the loss to Arman, 4 wins going into that fight. And his only other loss, and this guy's a killer, we know with the eye test he's a great fighter, he's well-rounded. Arman Tsarukyan absolutely bulldozed him. The only other guy he lost to was Demetrious Magulov, who Arman Tsarukyan also beat. And Demetrious Magulov is actually pretty okay. He's a good win. He's a decent win. And then you want to look at Arman Tsarukyan's win percentage again, 90%, and his only real loss was to Islam Makhachev on a week's notice in his UFC debut. Listen, we don't really hold it against Holloway that he lost to Dustin Poirier in his UFC debut, do we? No, we take that with a grain of salt. But for whatever reason, when it's Arman's UFC debut, we're going to look at that loss like it's Oliveira's loss to Islam Makhachev for the title. If you could ever come up with the most acceptable loss in UFC history, this might be one of them. Short notice debut against Makhachev, who was on a win streak, who just happens to be a top 5 all-time fighter. Many have him top 3. I have him as the fucking GOAT. Okay? That's not a bad loss. This is the thing. If you want to compare Arman to Charles Oliveira, well, let's just actually compare them side by side. Let's talk about the amount of great wins that both of them have. Okay? Charles Oliveira's greatest wins. Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, that's it. No more. Arman Tsarukyan, great wins, 1. Charles Oliveira. So Charles has 2 great wins. Arman has 1 great win, but it happens to be Charles. And when we just look at decent quality wins, Charles has Gaethje. Arman has Charles. Charles has Dustin. Arman has Demetrious. Charles has Demetrious, Arman has Gamrot. Charles has Chandler, Arman has Alvarez. Charles has Ferguson, Arman has Ismagulov. Okay? Even if you want to take Ismagulov off the list, okay, it's 5 notable wins for Oliveira, 4 notable wins for Arman Tsarukyan. Arman Tsarukyan has Oliveira. If one guy's going to be 1 win behind, if there's any way for him to close the gap, it actually could be the fact that he beat Oliveira, right? So when things are close, the guy who actually beat the other, aka Arman Tsarukyan, who beat Charles, especially when he has way less losses throughout his entire career, should be the obvious choice for who has a better resume, pound for pound, all time. Am I crazy? I don't think I'm that crazy. Even if you still have Oliveira as higher, you cannot tell me that it is a crackhead take, a brain-dead take, to have Arman around the same ranking spot. And also, we have to count losses. Charles Oliveira has lost 11 times in the UFC. Why is it that for our fan favorites, people with championship aura, when Oliveira's rubbing the belt, oh, we all love Oliveira. Why is it for that guy we don't give a fuck about his losses? Just because we're comparing him to a guy like Arman who happens to have no losses. Like, we praise fighters like Khabib. We praise fighters like Islam Makhachev. We praise fighters like Ilia Topuria for not losing. But we also just don't count losses for Oliveira. That also punishes the fighters that don't lose. So again, we're talking about Oliveira. After his great wins, you're going to David Timur and Nick Lentz. Like, just other bullshit wins that don't even matter that much. Just like Christos Giagos, Matt Favola, Davey Ramos. Listen, I'm not going to sit there and talk about, oh, Arman has a win over Oliver Mercier, who happens to be good in the PFL. Like, it's a quantity win. But you can do that with Oliveira's resume. You could do it with Arman's. Ultimately, Arman has a lack of quantity, which Oliveira has. But to make up for it, he has way less losses. And his one loss is something that you take with a grain of salt. None of us really give a fuck about Oliveira losing in his first couple of years in the UFC. But we count his loss to Topuria. We count his loss to Makhachev. We count his loss to Arman. And we do have to count some of those losses, like the ones to Paul Felder, where he was like 4 or 5 years into the UFC, where he was getting TKO'd. You got to count that. Arman doesn't. He doesn't have L's like that. And when it comes to great wins, Charles Oliveira, 5 notable wins. I'll get rid of his Magulov if you're not liking that. So it's 5 versus 4. Except Arman beat Oliveira, has way less losses. I'm not crazy. I'm really not crazy. You know, people want to sit there and act like Oliveira has like 50 all-time great wins. After Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier, you go Beneil Dariush. There's a big drop-off. But guess what? If you respect the Dariush win, you gotta respect Arman Tsarukyan's win over Dariush too. If you respect the Chandler win, you better respect a Mateusz Gamrot win. If you respect a 38-year-old washed-up Tony Ferguson win, you better respect a Joel Alvarez win, who was on a 4-fight win streak. So I think I proved my point. Listen, I think I proved my point. You're counting robberies? That happens to be good for your argument. I see what you're doing. Yeah, because judges can be wrong. How is this like a terrible take? People put no thought into the fucking GOAT list. And you have me crashing out. As I said, even if you disagree now, you can't say that I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I don't want to hear it because I'm making good points. Okay? This is the main thing that sort of gets in the way of people looking at the GOAT list objectively. It's championship aura. They look at Oliveira and they see him rubbing the belt in the edits and running around, and he's got a beautiful Cinderella story, and we all love that. But we just have to look at people's resumes in an objective way. You have 10 losses. You've got 10, actually 11. This guy has 1, and it was on short notice to the fucking GOAT. And this is ultimately what it comes down to, and this is going to tie into the Jan argument. But I think Petr Yan may be the most underrated fighter in history. And I'm just going to compare his resume to DJ. Now listen, I love Demetrious Johnson. He is a GOAT. He's a legend. But we're just talking about resume and resume alone. Not championship aura. Not, oh my God, this guy's like, I know that the DJ is a fan favorite and we all love him. I watch his podcast. I watch the MMA Guru Mighty Mouse show. But we have to be objective about this stuff. So when people call me crazy for putting Jan in the top 10, and then they'll have DJ at number 7, like Bedtime Adam at like number 7, and some of them will have him top 5. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense. Because ultimately, the most important factor is how many great wins do you have? Who have you beat? These are Jan's best wins. Corey Sandhagen, Aljamain Sterling, Sean O'Malley, Davidson Figueiredo, Song Yadong, Jose Aldo. Aldo was 33. Don't even start. He was 33 years old. Don't even start. After that, we get on to wins on Jan's resume that are part of DJ's like best wins. John Dodson, Jimmy Rivera, Uriah Faber. Now listen, Uriah Faber was a little old, fair enough. John Dodson is like, that's like a title win on DJ's resume. That's not even something that we're really thinking of when we're talking about Jan's best wins. People want to act like Jan doesn't also have quantity. Dodson, Douglas Silva de Andrade, Jimmy Rivera, Uriah Faber, Jin Sun Yu. You're going to say, Jin Sun Yu, haha, Jin. Okay, yeah. But like Mighty Mouse has Ali Bugatinov and like fucking Ian McCall and shit. The point that I'm making is, how many of your GOATs actually have resumes where you can name more than 3 or 4 great wins? People want to act like he only has 4 great wins. Who else has he beat? Yeah, who else has this guy beat? I want to hear more than just he was trick-shotting. That ties into championship or, oh, he was making people look like fools. Okay? Yeah, so did Jan when he landed the spinning back fist combo on Sandhagen. He made him look like a fool. So was Jan when he fucking beat the shit out of Aljamain Sterling the first time they fought. Yet I'm crazy for saying that Jan is a better resume than Aljo? This is another thing that I have to get at. Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling fought twice. You're crazy. Other people are crazy for only counting the second fight. Oh, but no, the illegal knee. Oh, yeah, okay. But what about the 19 minutes of fighting they did before that for the championship belt, a ton on the line, where we saw these guys in a high-level MMA fight, where we can determine who was the better fighter, who was the best bantamweight on the planet that night, and it was Jan. Just because he threw one technique that ended the fight at the 19-minute mark doesn't mean that all of a sudden I have to erase the entire thing from my memory. And when I think about Aljo and Jan, I can only think about the rematch. I can't think about the actual fist fight, the MMA fight that they had in 2021 on the Adesanya and Blachowicz card. That is a real fight. Those guys were two of the best fighters on the planet. It wasn't like a weird mixed rules matchup where Aljo could only grapple and Jan could only do karate. No, there was an MMA fight where Jan was kicking his ass, showing no signs of slowing down. Was up 3-1. The round was about to end. He was going to be up 3-1 heading into the fifth. Aljo was breaking. I can count that as a win. Why can't I count that as a win? Even if you're going to... Okay, I understand not giving Jan the chance to retain the title on a technicality. Not giving Jan the win on paper on a technicality. When it comes to determining who the best fighters ever are, I can look at that. I can look at Jan versus Aljo. Wait a second, they didn't only fight that time, they also fought this time, and everything was exactly the same as far as the rule set goes, the promotion goes, them being in their prime goes, but, oh, Jan threw one technique, and they didn't go to the fifth round. So I can't count the fight? Like, give me a break. Give me a break. I'm counting that as a win. Even if you don't want to count it as a win on paper, I can count it as... This is what makes Jan so good. He beat Aljo's ass. And when it comes to this Aljamain Sterling resume thing, I'm tired. Bedtime. This is addressed to Bedtime. It's a lazy argument to say the title defenses, 3 title defenses. That assumes that his first title win was against Jan, the fight where he was getting his ass kicked and won the belt off of being illegally kneed. So to say that he has 3 title wins assumes that the first title win was against Jan where he got his ass. You can't say that and use it as why he's one of the best. If one of your arguments is title wins, one of those title wins is not an actual win. It's objectively him getting his ass kicked. And the other one is him versus TJ Dillashaw. So this is the problem with title wins and championship aura. You can easily sit there and say Aljo's got 3 title wins or 4 title wins, 3 defenses, and he had the belt for so long. But like, nobody actually counts the TJ fight. Aljo's real title wins are against Jan the second time in the rematch and the Cejudo fight. The Cejudo fight is his real title defense. He's got 1 title defense if you want to actually look at his fights objectively. He beat Cejudo for his first real defense, and his first real title win was against Jan. Okay? If you want to look at Jan's resume objectively, he didn't take a single loss until the Merab fight. I'm sorry, fucking hell. Until the Aljo 2 fight. After the Aljo 1 fight, Jan fought Corey Sandhagen. And he won against Corey Sandhagen. He was undefeated in the UFC, had a win against Sandhagen, Aldo, and Aljo going into the rematch. I'm not about to sit there and treat the first fight like it's a loss for Jan. That's fucking delusional. And it's Looney Tunes. It's Looney Tunes. And I'm tired of people just throwing out title defense, title reign. It's like... It's just like it's literally painful for me to sit there and listen to people telling me that I have a bad take when my take is actually good. Okay? The point is, the Aldo win is a good win. He's 33. 33-year-old Jose Aldo. Oh, wait. All of a sudden, when Aldo fought Jan, he was trash? Why? Because he lost to Volk and Max? And Connor? He was trash when he fought Jan because he happened to be slightly worse than Volk, Max, and Connor. No, dude. Aldo is still a beast. Okay? Song Yadong. Song Yadong is a respectable top 10 bantamweight, has been and will be for more years to come. Davidson Figueiredo, when he fought Jan, 36 years old, 3-fight win streak, former champion. Sean O'Malley, I already talked about the robbery stuff. I'm going to count that as a win. Listen, I'm not going to sit there and say that, no, you can't say that's a draw. No, listen, if you're going to sit there and count that as a loss and a win for O'Malley, you can recognize that I can at least count it as a win for fucking Jan, because it was that close. But I think Jan won. The point that I'm making is, even if you want to get rid of the O'Malley shit and count it as a draw, Jan has a win over Aljo. You can't tell me he doesn't. They fought for 19 minutes and Jan beat his fucking ass. I will not hear anything against that. He beat Aldo. He beat Sandhagen. Sandhagen is a good win. You want to, Bedtime saying who Sandhagen beat? Who has he lost to? Outside of Jan, Aljo, and Umar, he's lost to nobody else. Sandhagen has like 10 plus UFC wins. He beat TJ Dillashaw. That was a fucking robbery. He only has lost to the absolute best fighters. He is an eternal top 5 bantamweight. Always has been, always will be. You can't say that's not a good win and then put DJ at the 7 spot for beating Cejudo, Benavidez, and no one else. And no one else. This is why I'm not crazy. Okay? You're going to say, yeah, but this is only his great wins. What about the other ones? What about the other ones? How about this? That's 6 wins that I'm not even showing on screen that are just quantity. Outside of DJ, outside of two, he fought Benavidez twice. He beat him twice. He's 1-1 with Cejudo. Outside of that, you immediately start going to the John Dodsons and you start doing mental gymnastics, jumping through hoops and ladders to tell me that John Dodson, oh yeah, Jan's got John Dodson too. And that was 2019. Okay? Like, am I insane? Am I actually insane? You know? And what are you going to sit there and tell me, yeah, but DJ has no losses. Okay, yeah, but who has DJ lost to? Ian McCall, I forget the guy's name. He lost to Dominic Cruz or whatever. And then he got beat by Henry Cejudo 1-1. He lost to Moraes in 1FC at the age of 36. Davidson Figueiredo, 3-fight win streak at 36. He lost to 1FC. Okay, DJ has a couple of L's throughout his career. Petr Yan, he lost to Merab, he lost to Aljo. That's really it. Is it that crazy to suggest that Yan has a better resume? I don't think so, when his wins are just subjectively much better. And this is ultimately what it comes down to. People want to also say that, yes, but for his time, he was the baddest. The problem with that is that the sport is super, super young. And when the sport is 80, 90 years old, we will not be able to say the same thing, because I believe that the sport will reach, you know, a certain level where it stops growing exponentially and it's basically just sort of stagnating a little bit, growing very slowly. But that's not what it's like now. Since the McGregor era, the sport has 10x'd. It's grown massively. And when we're talking about people like Demetrious Johnson, Anderson Silva, they have championship aura. They have these long title reigns. But at the end of the day, guys, back in the day, there were tens of thousands of people competing in MMA. Now we have millions. Since McGregor blew up the sport. Since 2014, up until now, we have millions of people, which means that there's much stiffer competition, and it's much less likely for one guy to be like 10 levels ahead of the rest of the ranked opponents. Why? Because there are way more people getting into the sport. It's more likely that you're actually going to be fighting someone that's around the similar talent level as you, that has been, again, like, training hard and fighting tooth and nail through different promotions to get to the UFC. The cream rises to the top. Back in the day, there was like hardly anyone in the UFC. It was still new. And so, no, I don't think it's as impressive to be winning against like guys that are clearly not on your level in the early 2010s. Whereas it's much more impressive for Jan to beat someone like Song Yadong. For Jan to even go out there and beat Court McGee is going to be more impressive than some of these fucking Anderson Silva title wins. It's so much harder to win today because the competition is stiffer. Why is the competition stiffer? Because there's more people getting into the sport. If there's only 10 people competing for something, you have much better chances of being the best. If there's 10 million people competing for something, those chances go down a lot. It goes down a lot because you're going up against people with more potential, with better work ethic, you name it. And so for Jan to be winning against great fighters today is more impressive than beating someone like Joseph Benavidez and Cejudo before Cejudo even hit his prime. But again, it's all championship aura. It's Aljo's the bantamweight GOAT. Why? Because he has 3 title defenses? Yeah, he has 3 title defenses. Let's not even look at the actual title defenses. One of them is a win against Aljo where he got... One of them is a win against Jan where he got his ass kicked against Jan. How does that make sense? The other is a win against TJ where TJ had 1 arm. It's like, dude, if Islam Makhachev were to fight Ilia Topuria and Ilia Topuria in the first second of the fight dislocates his arm and crumples and stumbles on his leg and is like severely handicapped and injured and it's visually obvious, then we can't say that, oh, yep, that he destroyed Prime Topuria and treat that like he just beat one of the greatest fighters ever. That is the thing. People are not using logic. They're like, yep, it's time that we give Volk the credit for beating Max and beating Aldo and beating all these great fighters. But yeah, here's a guy that has 1 great win all time. And then outside of that, just a bunch of quantity wins that are the kind of wins that you'd see on Jan's resume that you wouldn't even fucking count because you'd laugh at them. If I bring up Jan beating Jimmy Rivera and Dodson, people are gonna say, bro literally brought up Dodson and Andrade and Rivera to say that they were decent wins. But if you look at these other fighters' resumes, those are the ones outside of their 2 good wins. And yes, we can count robberies. And yes, I am counting the first fight against Aljo as a win. And yeah, it's an easy argument to say, well, if you don't count that as a win, his whole resume changes. Yeah, well, like, if you take 1 win away from anyone's resume, it changes. Try taking Cejudo away from DJ. Try taking DC away from Jones. Take Daniel Cormier away from John Jones. And his resume gets a lot worse, and it gets worse fast. So you don't get to say, oh, well, it's convenient that you just happen to add that. Yeah, well, it's convenient that you're not allowing me to fucking add it, dude. And people are gonna say, here comes the rate. No. All right? I'm making good points. It's not here's the thing, dude. I fucking love Demetrious Johnson. Let me just say that. Shout out to Demetrious Johnson. I watch his videos. I watch the Mighty Guru podcast. It's fucking epic. Okay? I love DJ. He's funny as fuck. He made the funniest joke to Volk. When Volk was talking about how he's investing in his farm. DJ's a funny fucking guy. He's a legend. Like, I always bring up his resume as an example, and I feel bad about it because people think I don't like DJ, dude. I fucking love DJ. It's just, I'm just calling out the lack of logic. That's it. I'm just calling out the lack of logic. No one's going to blink an eye if I have DJ at number 4. This is the point. This is the grand finale. This is what I'm going to say to close it out. If I put DJ at number 4, it is not controversial. After Cejudo and Benavidez, it drops off of a cliff. This is Jan's resume, on the other hand. If I have him at the number 9 spot, people say I'm on crack. Now, I hope that this video at least convinced you that even if you don't 100% agree with my placement for Jan or Arman, that I am indeed not giving the worst takes ever. And that I'm actually putting some real logical thought behind this shit. Okay? Listen, back to the Arman thing. He's 9-1. Oliveira has 11 losses in his entire career. Why is it that we can't count losses for Oliveira? Why? You know, the GOAT list is not... People only look at Oliveira's wins. But what makes Silva and DJ impressive to them is that they didn't lose. Forget about quality of wins. They look at DJ, they look at Silva, they look at DC even. He only lost to Jones early on in his career. What's impressive about them is that they weren't losing. Oliveira lost a couple times as a tadpole. You can write that off. But he also lost to Felder when he wasn't a tadpole. He was at an age where you got to count it. He's lost a couple of times in his prime, only to the best, but still, those are losses. Whereas another guy doesn't have them. And if we're just looking at ratios, one ratio is a whole lot better. One guy happens to have beat the other guy. And when it comes to great wins, outside of Gaethje and Poirier, you're getting to the Gamrots. You're getting to the Dariushas, which Arman has too. You know? And if we look at Oliveira's resume, it's like, oh yeah, but what about his other ones? Oh yeah, like, yeah, I totally forgot about the fucking Jared Gordon, Nick Lentz fights. But I can look at Arman and I can say, oh yeah, well, what about, you know, what does Arman also have? The Davey Ramos, Matt Frivola fights. But if I bring those up, people laugh. Guys, I think that Petr Yan is one of the most underrated fighters in UFC history, and this is all I gotta say. At the end of this video, do you at least agree that Arman should be top 50 all time? I'm not even asking top 30. I showed their resumes. I feel like at this point, the only argument against that would be no, because he wasn't the Oliveira era. Yo, no, because he wasn't, I'm big champion. And then cue the music. No, because he doesn't have the TikTok edits. He doesn't have the belt wrapped around his waist, man. Arman beat Oliveira when Oliveira was coming off of a win. Like, dude, I'm not even saying you have to have Arman ahead of Oliveira. I'm just saying they won't blink an eye if you have Oliveira high. But if you have Arman top 50, top 30, if I had Arman 10 spots below Oliveira, if I had Arman at the number 28 spot, they would freak out. I just wanted to prove that it's actually kind of close. And that we shouldn't punish Arman for not having any losses. And we shouldn't just let it totally slide for fighters when they do have a bunch of losses, like 10, 11 losses. Arman was a tadpole. And Arman's like 28 years old. He's one of the youngest, best fighters in the sport, right? He's had 10 fights. 10 fights ago, the guy was a tadpole. That happens to be his only loss. Oh, yeah, it's Islam Makhachev on a week's notice. Okay, I just wanted to get on here to say that I think I made some good arguments. I think that I actually am not crazy, that I just put a lot of thought into the stuff, and that what it is this. I don't think that other people are crazy. I don't think that other people are delusional necessarily. I just think that other people just look at the GOAT list, the final product. They're not hearing the explanation. They're not hearing me out. And because of that, they jump to conclusions and they want to say, oh, this. But it's because of the championship aura. It's because the legends of the sport, the legends. There's this. They literally have aura. They literally have mystique. Fighters with mystique get carried hard on the GOAT list, the GOAT rankings in their head, and they can't just look at it objectively, resume compared to resume. It's not about who's a legend. You know, we'd say greatest of all time. Maybe some people want to add, oh, it's about greatness. Arman was never yeah, but part of greatness is being popular as well. When we talk about the GOAT list, I'm talking about resume. Who was the best? The best in the octagon and in the octagon only. Who was the best on paper? It's not even who's the most skilled necessarily, because I'd have Poirier number one all time. It's just who has proven to be the most winning fighter. Who has proven to be the toughest guy to beat time and time again. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time.